Good afternoon, Scott T3 Live. Welcome to today's recap. It's Monday and there was action. Today we gapped up, and after the first, I would say, half an hour when they pushed the envelope a little bit more, things started to trade lower. We traded back below Friday's high. All of a sudden, tech that opened up, that was really weak on Thursday or Friday, started to cascade lower, broke below, even some broke below last week's like 2-day pivots, and then lo and behold, sometime in the afternoon, things came back above the prior low. So you had like an RDR on top to the downside, and then back below the prior low and up, and PS, market rallied into the close. So there was definitely areas for adjustments, areas where if you're a trader, you have to make moves. And then there were things obviously a lot stronger than other things. Same on the weak side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump through a lot of charts, a lot of stocks. If you've been on the VTF today, I think you guys had a pretty good day. Our focus again was Apple, and Apple was a rock star after showing some clear-cut signals again that the gap that held on Thursday, that had relative strength on Friday, had nice continuation today. So let's just start going through some things. Here you go. Here's the SPX. You'll see. Here's this big range that's up here. Here was your little overthrow that failed, and here was your overthrow that failed. And now we held kind of the mid level. Didn't feel like it was going to happen, but it did. So who knows? At this point, it's been very choppy, lots of head fakes, and here you are now, a stone throw away from this area with the Fed Tuesday, Wednesday, traded below 1859. Okay, so if you had got stopped out, okay, hit 1850, came back above it, and then we closed at 1871, and now here we are, right back at those highs. Let's see what the Nasdaq did. The Nasdaq, obviously not as clean because the Nasdaq's been weaker. You still have this downtrend right there. Today, traded below, the prior low, which was what, 85.98, came back above it, and we'll see what happens here the next session or so. You still have this big support, from that red dog reversal way back when, and now we're trying to hover here. Okay, so now let's go to first, which has been our focus since Thursday. If you're on the VTF, you saw on Thursday, I said let's give it 15 to 30 minutes, get a pivot on Apple, and then we can probably go long versus that gap and then measure the strength. And if you look at Apple here, it's been unbelievable. Here was your gap, okay, and it obviously held. Opened lower on Friday with the weakness in the market, closed strong, and then today you had some really nice follow through. And now you go take a bigger look at it, and you'll see that this 6-month wedge obviously now is resolved to the upside, and you did not have to be long into the report. You could have traded it after and still really not made much money. You could, the after hours, but you could have waited for a calculated entry for a buy, which you saw if you're on the VTF. If you just bought with us on Thursday, you held through, I think, all the way to 584 today, and then traded it a few times back and forth. It gave you another trade, and now I'm long probably the smallest amount that I've had since Thursday, but I think tomorrow, who knows, maybe they try and tag 600, just to try and get some guys to buy some 605 and 620 calls, and then you know what happens towards the end of the week. But anyway, you take a bigger look backwards, and very strong move today, and next real level comes in here. Our target was 640 in the 2014 report, but with the 7-for-1 stock split, the buyback, the dividend, who knows? We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Right now, really nice trade. If I were you, you could stay with some because sometimes it's hard to get back in it, but I would be light compared to the size of the move that it had. So now let's go through some high beta names. First, Google, not really that compelling, but it did close back above the 200-day, okay, which sometimes give you a quick little trade to the upside. I am long a little bit. It got long towards the end of the day. Maybe it tries to, get back up somewhat. This has been a broken name. Got thrown out of, got thrown out with a lot of the high beta type names and the growth names. It's still one of the value type names. We'll see what happens here. Hopefully there's a little follow through tomorrow. As far as other names, they really didn't bounce that much. So this was really not the place to be. Netflix, big tail, but from here to here, nice place to maybe cover. Not a screaming long. This still has a lot to prove, and it's weaker than stronger. I guess if when it broke below here and came back above, maybe you cover a little bit. It's extended from all these moving averages, so it can bounce if it want to. But that's something I wouldn't have chosen. But I guess if you did, you'll see. Amazon, what did that do today? Same type of thing. Big move to the downside off the lows, but really not green. Jury's out there too. Facebook was interesting. Facebook, we trade this all the time. And this one, you can't get stubborn with. This had that upper head and shoulders pattern, which wound up triggering to the downside. Okay, it took a little time to happen, and then it did. Then it held going sideways. And then on earnings, it couldn't hold and closed weak. Friday had downside follow through, and then here you have this another bigger macro pattern. We posted the chart, but for big patterns to get resolved, they really need to trade and go through it, and sometimes they mess around a little bit. So you do have this head and shoulders top pattern, but you still could see a little bit more right shoulder here to test moving averages. So if you use this as your pivot, which was 55.44, hopefully you covered some into the weakness, or at least when it traded back above that, so this way you didn't stay in it for what wound up being a pretty decent close. Or some people might have said, oh, all the way from where we are at 60, what was this, as high as 63 down to here, first time it gets here, maybe they want to mess with the shorts a little bit and could be a tactical long, and that's what somewhat took place here. So now we'll see what happens over the next few sessions here. Might need to hover, push the envelope. Twitter comes out on Tuesday after the close, so maybe people are a little scared to be short, or they don't want to just give the full clues that this is going lower. But so that's why you have a pivot. If it was positive, went from negative to positive, tried to hover at this pivot and couldn't, and then got weaker. Hopefully you didn't press down here, or if you did, you covered and said, I'm gonna see what happens and then get back involved. Some of the other social media names really didn't do much. LinkedIn still trending down. Wow, boy, this has been annihilated. Last time I looked at this, we played it for actually a quick little bounce, and on this red dog reversal, I think I got out on this day, and then you had a small tactical red dog reversal right into prior resistance, and then boom. Yeah. If you're trading these things, this is a fast-moving market. You better move fast, especially since it happened the same way so many different times on the way down. So with that said, that still needs more time there too. Let's see, what else were people trading today? Tesla, held in there. Okay, this didn't make a lower low. You still have this tail from here. You still have a downtrend that you have to deal with, and you still have earnings you have to deal with. So I know RD or some people were talking about fading some strength, and they did that earlier on, and then maybe you pressed through here, and hopefully you saw a little bit of a turn, and you didn't stay the course. So at this point, still needs some time, and it's working through a bigger pattern here. So we'll see what happens next. Where the strength has been is, like, let's switch some gears, Walmart. Boom, we had that off the charts, and 8-day getting extended. That's why the S&P is not really going down. You look at Target, actually playing some catch up too. Look at that. This one I think actually even has some room. This is breaking out above this level. Next thing it has to do is reclaim that 200-day. Some have been focusing on the energy names, which are still strong. Look at XOM, starting to break above this area. XLE, what are you doing? Holding the 8-day after a massive move. What are the stocks like Schlumberger doing? Still hanging around, but I'm not going to start buying those up here. What else flashed here and there? I think most of the attention was really on Apple, because we've been missing Apple for so long, and finally when they made that big announcement, everyone was so upset that they didn't have enough, or they didn't have options, or they had options like I did and sold it in the afternoon because at that point, it was like money was growing on trees, and to just lose money on a coin flip, it was not the best thing to do. But if you left that frustration at the side, you could have said, okay, let's look at Apple by taking a step back. One, it held the earnings gap, which is what we talked about and what needed to happen. And then Friday, when the Dow was down 140, it went from negative to positive, closed near the highs, and then you had today. So now maybe we get a little follow through, which would be nice tomorrow, or maybe it opens a little lower, and then we figure out where support holds. And I think you could continue to stay with Apple because, what is it, $80 billion worth of a buyback, the dividend, the 7-for-1, still some growth there. Good place to maybe hide some money. It hasn't done anything in a long time. People are underinvested. It has the dynamics of something that we could continue to trade closer like we did way back when. Let's take a look at gold. Some people asked me to look at gold. Gold's kind of hanging in there still. If you look at it, you still have this engulfing bar. It's now flagging here. You have a big gap in front of it. So at this point, I guess as long as it stays above today's low, I still think it's random and erratic and hard to deal with. Maybe you get a trade through this 125.70 to fill a portion of this gap. So, so if you're there, that's your tactics there. Some are saying you had this on Friday. Look at the TBTs had a little hammer bottom, a little follow through today, but still big time descending channel. Maybe at some point it gets going, but it still has a lot to prove. It's tried many different times, and at some point it might. So we'll see what happens there. You look at what the EWGs did today. We talk about this a lot in the morning call just to see what Europe kind of did. And here's that channel. Here's the upper end where it keeps failing. But what did it do this time? Pulled in and held the top above the top half of it. So if there's enough oomph, maybe next time it goes through, and that could also provide the bulls a bit more of a backdrop. So with that being said, you have a lot of conflicting time frames, a lot of conflicting sectors, a lot of divergences out there. Some people are having some success with these day-and-a-half trades, okay, taking it long, opening up, selling it, and then it stalls, getting short, playing it for some kind of downside move, or breaking below a level, putting in a pivot support, you're buying it, red dog reversal that way. And then some things are getting multiple days, if it's a specific compelling situation. And that's what I'm trying to get people to do, is just do this specific compelling situation, not the one that is in blackjack. If you play blackjack, 7 versus an 8, that's not a great hand, or even an 8 versus an 8. And I'm trying to say, let's take the 11 versus 6 and double down, and that's a probability trade. And it's not your fault if you pull a 5 and he has a 4 underneath and gets a 10. You got to do it. That's a broken pattern. And as long as you do the right trade, typically over time the right trade should pan out. So let's try and keep doing it. Stress down, baby steps, firmer ground. Let's keep building, and hopefully had a good few days even when the markets had the volatility, because lots of good two-way trades out there if you take them and you have the clarity to see them. See you at the morning call with Brittany. Have a good night.